Hello again, vinyl community. Mr. Rick here once again on a rather cold, well, not a cold, but I've got the air conditioner on. It's getting cold in here. I want to give a big shout out to my buddy Elliot Cruz and his dog Chester. I appreciate him for giving me a shout out on his videos. Elliot, I've always enjoyed his videos, and you will too. Elliot's a North Carolina country boy, and I appreciate him quite a bit because he and I went to different schools together. And we also have an appreciation for country music. We both like rock and roll. We listen to jazz, we listen to popular music, and we enjoy those formats. But there's something about country music that it just feels like family. I'll give you an example. When Johnny Cash died years ago, I cried. I had grown up listening to that man. I'd watched his television show. I'd collected his records and heard him on the radio. And it just felt like a loss when he died to me. I've got a brother in Virginia, and he and I, whenever one of the classic or one of the country artists dies, when Don Williams died, he called me up and said, "Guess what? Don Williams is gone." And I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, he's gone." I can't describe it, but these artists that were in country years ago, you just feel like they're a part of a family, like a long lost, like a cousin or something. And I'm sure Elliot knows exactly what I'm talking about. As far as country music is concerned, it isn't the same feeling that you get with rock and roll and with jazz and with pop. You just feel a little more tied to these people, is what I'll put on. But I appreciate Elliot, and if y'all haven't seen Elliot and his dog Chester, I'd jump on over there and pull him up. He's got some good videos, and he's always got a good show. Okay. I thought this evening we'd take a look at some live country music recordings. I have quite many of them. A lot of them are radio programs, as I showed in previous videos. I have a lot of those, but I didn't want to bring those out because those aren't sold in the stores, and you won't find those in on the shelves anywhere. But we'll start out in order. Here's a record the Academy of Country Music came out with a while back. This is Eddie Arnold. This goes back to the 1940s. Eddie Arnold was a big, popular country music star from the 40s into the 50s anyway. And this is a part of his radio show that the Academy of Country Music, ACM is what the label is, and they put out Eddie's radio programs, and this is part of his live performance, and a good one too. Several of his radio programs here on that album. Next we find Patsy Cline. This is Patsy Cline live at the Opry. This came out in 1988 on MCA. There are pieces of her live on the Opry, and she is introduced by people like Little Jimmy Dickens and Jim Reeves and certain people like that. And that's a good listen also. Patsy Cline live on the Grand Ole Opry. Here's a fellowman that was I always enjoyed listening to, and I used to, when I had my radio program, I always included some of his stuff. Jerry Clower, and this is some of his stuff. I'm not sure exactly where this was recorded at, but he was a great talent in his own right, Jerry Clower. Here's an album that was really popular around 1975. That's John Denver, An Evening with John Denver, and of course Grandma's Featherbed is on here, and thank God I'm a country boy with two of the big hits off of it. But it's also a very good concert. Is John Denver, An Evening with John Denver. It's very enjoyable. Here's something that came out in the 1986, as a matter of fact. There was a company called Sandy Hook Records, and they were producing a lot of the stuff. This is a copy of Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and the Foggy Mountain Boys, and it's a live 1953 broadcast that was heard with the sponsor Martha White over WSM in Nashville. And it's the, I don't know how many radio shows were in it from that year, but they were popular over Martha White, and that was this is an enjoyable album also, and of course, you know, good picking there. Here's some Rainbow Stew from Merle Haggard. This came out in 1981. This is another good one. I'm taking my glasses off and put them somewhere. I don't know where I put them, but I can't read the back liner notes on it. But this is another good one. This was live at Anaheim Stadium in California, I believe. A crew that was just funny as they could be back in their day, Homer and Jethro. And back in 1968, they went to Vanderbilt University, and they produced their show there. That's back when all the folk acts and everything were popular, and they went there and cut up a lot. And this is a great, enjoyable album here. They really tease each other, and everybody has a good time there. This is Homer and Jethro live at Vanderbilt University. The Astrodome. I'm not sure if the Astrodome is standing anymore, but this is Sonny James from 1969 and his Southern Gentleman. And he, back in that day, was really popular back in the 60s. Sonny James was, and he sings a lot of his greatest hits on this one. This also was a good album. Sonny James presented at the Astrodome. And we cruise up to 1976, Waylon Live. This is Waylon in Texas. He does a lot of good things. This time is one of the songs he does live. Bob Wills is Still the King. That was a big hit for him, and he recorded that. As long as there was also, he does a nice version of The House of the Rising Sun too. This is out in Texas. Louvin Brothers. We go back to 1958. This is live at the River Ranch Club, one of their concerts. And it's very interesting how these two, they had a good show also. They had a very funny show. They teased each other, and they scared the audience to death thinking that everybody was going to have to go get a shot at the end of the day because of some kind of a virus or something, and except for the police. And they say, well, why come the police don't? She said, because the police don't ever catch nothing, that's why. Anyway, that's the Louvin Brothers live at the River Ranch from 1958. That's a good concert. Can't go without this guy. 1978, this is Willie and Family Live, and this is On the Road Again and all those other good songs that Willie put out. This is also a good count. I had this on 8-track tape for many years and listened to it a lot, and just recently found this album, and was glad I did. I could put the 8-track tape away because I enjoy listening to the vinyl much better. That's from 1978. Here's a guy by the name of Buck Owens in London. This, I think, is somewhere around 1964-65 that Capitol produced. He goes to London and tells the crowd that there's a rumor that the Beatles are moving to America. And he tells the crowd, I tell you what, if the Beatles move to America, we're moving over here. The crowd applauds. That's live in London. And then, of course, the classic, this is his Carnegie Hall concert from 1966. That's when that one came out. Buck Owens just about owned country music in those days. He was one of the most popular, him and Johnny Cash and a few others. But Buck Owens was one of the #1 country music artists in that day. It's a good album also. And we go back to this was released in 68. It was recorded in 1961. Jim Reeves on stage in Pennsylvania. He's on a mountaintop in Pennsylvania, playing in the rain, as I remember. And his electric guitar that one of his band members is playing keeps shocking him. But a good show, all in all. It's been cut up. I've got the original broadcast on CD that I found, but this is a good show from Jim Reeves on stage. And if you're a Texas Playboy fan, in 1978, Bob Wills' Texas Playboys got back on the road. Leon McCullough was directing the band then. And I'm not sure exactly where this one was recorded. But this is also a good show. Of course, Texas Playboys were nothing to play around with. They were a good Western swing band there. And they're live and kicking. That jacket on this one is so eat up, though. I found it like that. I wish I could find another one. There's a company called Radiola. I don't know if they're still in business or not, but they used to produce a lot of old radio shows and things like that. This one is Turnus Tubb and his Texas Troubadours. A lot of their radio programs on one side of this album, and on the other side is T. Texas Tyler and a live broadcast from him from somewhere around 1946. And this is very good. T. Texas Tyler back then was popular also. He was a popular Western swing band. It's from 1950 where these recordings came out. And in 1966, the Wilburn Brothers show with Loretta Lynn and Ernest Tubb on it, and of course Teddy and Joel, and just another good country western show with a little bit of comedy in it, and it's an enjoyable recording also. Don Helms, Hank Williams, the steel guitarist, plays steel guitar on this album, on this show. But this was commercially produced and set out as a live program for all the listeners and all the people that were Wilburn Brothers fans. And then we've got Hank Williams. Here's an album that's on stage with Hank Williams. This is mostly his radio broadcast, pieces of it. Then we've got Live at the Grand Ole Opry, which is recordings of him with Red Foley and several others, and little pieces of him singing, and how the crowd just goes crazy over it. They really did. Here's an album that was put out again by the Academy of Country Music. This is called Early Country Live, and he does one of the programs on the Grand Ole Opry. He appears to be intoxicated. I'll be honest with you. He really sounds drunk, and but it's also a good show, and some of his health and happiness stuff is on there also. And speaking of the health and happiness shows, here are both albums, volumes 1 and 2 of his 8 health and happiness shows that were done in 1949. Hope you enjoyed that. Just wanted to give a big shout out to Elliot and ask you to drop by his site and take a look at some of his stuff. He's got some interesting music, and him and his dog Chester. Until we meet you again, this is Mr. X saying, if the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll see you before long.